So, Mark, did you see that lady who married 14 different men in Las Vegas? Allegedly, she'd marry them, get them to send her money, and then dump them. A true Vegas story.
I just don't understand how the county would allow this many marriage licenses to go through in such a short period of time before they caught on. And I know that she used, I think, one other alias. So don't you find that the most insane part of all of this?
I just want to know where she got married. Did she get married where me and Elvis got married? That's the important question.
No, we got a new Vegas tagline out of it, though.
What?
Vegas, Thailand without the water.
God. Well, Mark, the Stanley Cup finals are over, and I have to eat crow. The Carolina Hurricanes won it in 6 games. The last couple games were sort of ugly. They outplayed. They were the better team. Congratulations to all of their fans. And it was a great run for the Vegas Golden Knights, but the Hurricanes definitely deserve some congrats. They're the best.
I mean, it's still impressive that the Golden Knights have been able to go to the Stanley Cup 3 times now in their short history. They just, I mean, the silver lining here is, Sean, you only have to win 11 more Stanley Cups before you can actually call yourself Hockey Town USA.
Well, I don't know, but the haters were out. They're all happy. Everybody who hates and says Vegas has the worst fans, Vegas is the worst city. I don't know of an expansion team that's ever done better in its first 9 seasons. So there is that, but only one championship. It hurts a little bit. We will move on from that. I got a little too cocky, though.
It's good to get a humble pie once in a while.
Yes, it is. Well, Mark, the Vanderpump Hotel officially opened. We've been talking about it, and the rooms have been open, the casino have been open, but they finally had their big party, and my only question is, where were our invites?
Yeah, we didn't get the influencer invites to check it all out, but they did a cool drone show and kind of launched it off in the right way. And I don't know, my one takeaway from this, I mean, we've already seen a lot of this stuff. We walked through it ourselves during the middle of the construction. We've talked about how that entry hallway is a bit too bright, or the main hallway that you walk down that used to be kind of sexy and dark is a little bit too light. But when you look at like the check-in desk area, how dark and sexy, and the colors kind of pop perfectly, and the purple doesn't overwhelm everything. I really like that setup, that scheme there. I wish that's what they would have done throughout the whole casino and in that main entry walkway.
Yeah, there's been mixed sort of reviews of it, I would say. People thinking it's too dark, or the carpet, they didn't like the carpet, the Haunted Mansion sort of carpet. I don't like it in pictures. I liked it in person. I don't know how else to describe that. Gigolos is dark and sexy too. The new cocktail garden there, and lots of great reviews for that. So overall, really good. Vanderpump brought the party, of course, all of the celebrities and everything else. As you said, a really cool drone show. And in 2026, you need a drone show for just about everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the crown jewel for Tillman Fertitta now, besides Caesar's Palace.
Yeah, absolutely. Great for Vegas. National attention. Can they fill these 188 rooms with people who love Vanderpump? I think so. It's not that big of a hotel. And it's weird, though. The rooms are very light and bright and airy, and the casino is something else.
Yeah, there's a disconnect there. That Cromwell kind of had that flow from the casino floor up into the rooms, very similar. You kind of knew what you were getting into. So I do wonder if people that haven't seen the show and haven't complained about us talking about it too much will be a little bit surprised by how bright it is when they go in there.
All right, a couple more weeks until we talk about it again. I'm going to go stay there, and then we can get our final thoughts on everything Vanderpump. We do have an update on the A's ballpark. So the A's were in town for their 6-game series that they were doing here, their first games in Las Vegas, and they finished 4-2 over at the Las Vegas ballpark. So a successful debut in Las Vegas for the Athletics. But the stadium is moving along. You know, the big arch is now in place. Mick Akers got a tour, and he was right inside the ballpark showing us what it looks like on the ground, the 300 level, one of the clubs. And there's also a new mural being painted on the wall.
Yeah, it looks like they're progressing really well. And it's such cool view lines when he's walking around of the strip, which you probably won't get that much of when the stadium's fully erected. I know there will be some windows in there and some view lines, but it won't be the same perspective as you get now, which is kind of a cool look for it.
Yeah, I kind of forgot how exciting it is to watch a stadium get built. We went through this with, I mean, T-Mobile was less, I think, fanfare before that happened, but Allegiant, we were following that. It was really cool to watch that big Roomba be put up, or whatever you want to call it. And
Toilet bowl.
Looks iconic, yeah. But it looks iconic, and we know it's going to be sexy with that Sydney Opera House type vibe, and getting that big arch in place, I feel like gave it another dimension or something.
Yeah, I think it's going to look really great when it's all said and done. And then the question is, does Bally's actually break ground this summer or not?
In a second, we are going to talk about adult camp in Las Vegas. I'm not kidding. But before we do that, I would like to invite you to subscribe. Thousands of you are watching right now. You aren't subscribed, just hit the button. It helps us out a lot. But Mark, Camp Palms, are you excited about this? They announced this for July 1st through July 31st. No kids allowed. And they describe it as an immersive adults-only summer camp experience where childhood nostalgia collides with comedy, cocktails, and campfire chaos. They have a special menu, which the prices aren't insane on the menu. They're going to have roving characters. I think they even have animal characters in there, bringing back that nostalgia. We're talking about nostalgia. Here you go. Summer camp.
Yeah, I think that this is just leaning into all the other stuff we've seen for that generation, the 80s, 90s is what they're really focusing on. And I think this is leans right into what a lot of people want. I think it's a great idea. Like we were talking about on the last episode, I think it all comes down to how well do they pull it off? How good does it look? Do they actually spend the resources to kind of make it feel summer campy inside of there? And when we get to see that, then we'll know for sure. But I think it's a great idea. It's just a question of what the execution looks like. And I've been all for adult summer camps. I know they do them on lakes and stuff for like a week or two, and we've kind of aged out of people that would go to them. But I've always been interested in it, and I thought it was such a cool idea. Even looked into it once, like renting out a whole camp to do like a meetup for it. And I think that would be something so unique that nobody else has done. But maybe this is the only way I can get that type of feeling.
I mean, in Vegas, free. So it's every day of the week, too, which I like. It's going to be open on not just specific days. And like I said, the cocktail's like $16, $18. The food is all summer camp inspired. So, yeah, I think based on what we know so far, we don't really have any renders of the space or anything. This sounds very exciting. Another sort of adult-only thing is Swingers After Dark. They announced for Friday nights, $15 entry or $150 get you a VIP thing with where you actually get to play golf, 30-minute card, and then you get access to a VIP table, but then you still have a minimum at the table, so I don't know. But basically, they're bringing in a DJ, turning Swingers into a nightclub on Friday nights.
I think this is something fun and a little bit different and maybe not expected for mini golf or putt-putt or whatever you want to call it. I just wish that you could still do the golfing and not spend $450 or whatever. That seems a bit much. For $15, that's not a bad cover charge to get in and kind of check out the environment. But I wish you could just pay like another $30, $40 to golf if you wanted to.
I think you can. They didn't specifically say that, but I think you could buy the separate stuff, buy a game pass, spend less than the VIP ticket if you didn't want that. But $15 just gets you in for the vibes. It doesn't get you golf or anything else. The drinks are not the cheapest. But yeah, basically a nightclub Friday nights. Vegas is healing again. Adults, things for adults to do. I like it. So let's move on to this next story. We talked on a recent show about the sale of the pass from DeSimone Gaming. They bought it during COVID. This is in downtown Henderson. Another local shakeup, but they got a little horny, Mark. They bought Bighorn and Longhorn. So dumping the pass, getting these two other local casinos. The one, Longhorn, is right across the street from where the cannery was, where they just imploded it. He said he might figure out something to revamp the hotel there. The Bighorn is in North Las Vegas, and I haven't been there in quite a while since I sang karaoke back in the day. Quite the crowd over there.
Yeah, Longhorn is the one that you refused to get a room to watch it, right? That was like the biggest night in the history of the casino.
Yes, I think so. But one of these is going to be a lease. The other one, they are going to own everything. And it's just an interesting sort of shakeup in local casinos. But just a reminder that there's these operators that you never heard of doing things. So it's not just the strip in downtown.
See, everybody thinks I'm the dirty one when you make the horny joke. And I was just going to make a joke about getting like a Longhorn steakhouse in there or cracking peanuts everywhere.
The sad thing is I messed it up the first time. So the element of surprise with you, I made you laugh a lot more the first time I said it. But hey,
check the outtakes.
What else can you do? As a reminder, we have our Patreon. We do our after show every week. More bonus content, money saving guide, tons of good stuff over there. Patreon.com/MTM Vegas. Thanks for all the support. Helps us keep doing the show. Check it out. So a quick update from the Strip. What replaces the White Castle over at Casino Royale? That was the first White Castle in Las Vegas on the Strip. Big fanfare. It closed a few months ago. And yeah, it's just being removed. Slot machines. Chris Holmes saw this. So they're just integrating it back into the casino.
Yeah, they'll be making more money off the slot machines, I would guess, and they have less bathroom maintenance without having White Castle there.
Yeah, save on plumbing bills. A huge upgrade there. Don't forget their cheap hot dogs. What are they up to, $3.50 now, I think? I love that place. You know, we were just most recently hung out there on New Year's Eve, and I just love it. The best Western lobby. I know I say this all the time, but people should check it out. It is a bit of old Vegas in there.
Yeah, I even took my son through there when we were there to point out the Best Western lobby and said, this is what Vegas used to be like. A lot of casinos kind of felt this way. And just it has that old school vibe. And maybe this is kind of credence that we're not going to see it get tore down. That was the rumor a couple of years ago when they were trying to get clearance to build so high, and who knew what was going to happen with it. And maybe that's all been put on the back burner for a while, which I like. I love the place. It's always fun to go in there and have a beer and just hang out.
I still, you got to give them credit for maintaining free parking all these years. I always wondered how they never got overloaded with it. Maybe people don't know, but free parking there. And yeah, we talked on the recent show about how much it costs to build a hotel room in Las Vegas. So I think a lot of projects are probably on hold for that reason. And margins don't seem to be very high. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
But let's talk big wins. There's a couple I saw one from M6 Drop. These are $2,000 spins at Cosmo on Diamond Queen. So I don't know if this is great, but I think getting both of these at the same time, locking up both machines, 437,000 on one, 621,000 on the other. Is this a jackpot? Is this worth celebrating?
I mean, probably still down 200K on the day if he's betting $2,000 a spin.
Yeah, I mean, we're so desensitized to these spins. If you just think back a few years ago, a video where people are betting 2,000 would have been shocking, but with everything going on in the internet, it happens all the time now.
Yeah, and I think that is part of it. Just social media and influencers have kind of shown off these high stakes gambling, and people are doing it more and more. And that's probably to a detriment to many people, which is sad to see. But I mean, I feel like $20 used to be a big pull, and now that would be kind of like the starting point for a lot of people.
So let's move on to this other one. Guy gets a royal flush on Ultimate Texas Hold'em. I guess he has the side bet for the progressive, which is $1.1 million. You see it all right there. You see the hand on the table. And I think the dealer sort of like gave somebody else at the table a little bit of a lecture for not making the side bet because they would have won like 5,000. Side bet's not usually the best deal, but I think this guy got the better side of it.
Yeah, the worst is what if he didn't bet it and got that hand?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would never sneeze at a 500 to 1 win, but when you're talking like on a $10 bet, $5,000 versus 1.1 million, it's like just put the $5 or whatever up there. I don't know. Whenever there's a progressive at the table, I usually play it for that reason because the regret is so much more than the $5. You lose every hand, and then sometimes something else happens, or if somebody else wins it. I've had people hit big wins at the table. We didn't have that MV bet type of payoff, but same type of thing like when they roll craps and somebody goes on a roll and they hit 7 points or something like that, and the golden dice or the one where you can do all the different points. I forget what it's, fire bet. Those things I always bet just because the regret is too big, and that's what they're hoping for, I guess.
Yeah, as a reminder, side bets usually have a much higher house advantage than the game itself.
Yeah, sucker bet, but hey, you don't want to be the sucker that's looking at 1.1 million and you didn't have.
Yeah. Who's the sucker now?
Chris Angel.
So let's close with this. The Nevada Gaming Abstract Report came out, and this is like a 100+ page report full of numbers, and it's for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. So all of these numbers are basically a year behind, but there are so many interesting takeaways from these numbers, and I tried to dive into it, use different sources, use some AI to kind of break down some numbers and look through everything. And it's very interesting to see that the net profits on the strip plunged 81.2% from 2024 to 2025, 21 billion in revenue, 5.5 billion in gaming revenue, but only 0.7% of all the revenue brought in was profit. I mean, that is an insane number to look at. In fact, downtown Las Vegas made more profit than the strip.
Yeah, and they were what, like 1/8 the gaming or 1/8 the revenue, which is even more insane. I think they run a leaner ship on Fremont, and we've talked about them. A lot of the casinos on the strip don't own the land. They have those fees. They have higher interest rates, they have loans, debt, all that stuff that maybe you're not seeing on Fremont. So it's not eating into it. Like, I think the Strip would have done well if they didn't have all this debt and other payments they needed to make. The numbers would have been a lot higher. But basically, we're talking about grocery stores. We always say only make a couple percent, 1 or 2% net profit, and casinos doing worse than that. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we're in the era where we're talking about them nickel and diming and all the high prices everywhere. And then you see what's actually happening on the other end, what they're taking out. Debt servicing is the biggest part of why this is the case. Now, when you look at the year over year numbers, down a few percentage points, 2024 was the all-time high. So on like total revenue, stuff like that, not a huge thing to drop off slightly, but when you look at these profit numbers, it's just bad. I mean, there's nothing about that. And as we sort of look into this new Las Vegas that we talk about with the potential of MGM and Caesars being sold, you have to wonder, with these margins, what are they seeing?
I'm guessing that they're seeing some bloat or some way to restructure the debt and save some money there, and maybe cut some overhead costs that they have, things like that. And to build a new hotel costs so much money these days that buying a distressed property is probably the way to go. So maybe they find some intrinsic value there, or they could see it making a turnaround the next couple of years. But I'm guessing that they're looking at restructuring the debt and then looking at ways to cut costs. And hopefully it doesn't come at the cost to the gamer, us, or the customer like we've seen in the past. But I do think that when you have big corporations, they do tend to be bloated, and there's a way to trim that when you're a private company.
We will see how that all works out. But there's a couple other things with the Caesars deal, a couple markets, South Lake Tahoe, where both Caesars, they have a couple properties there, and Golden Nugget has a property. And then in Laughlin, same sort of thing, 2 Caesars properties, 1 Golden Nugget property. Laughlin, did you see this? The total revenue down 2.1%, gaming revenue down 3%. Like I said, those aren't huge numbers. They're coming off highs. The net income in Laughlin, minus 54.8 million. So it's down 758%. Laughlin lost 54.8 million. And South Lake Tahoe, the whole market was doing better than in 2024, but it still lost over $50 million. So you're probably going to expect some divestiture in these markets from this combined company.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see where they pull out of, or where they try to unload properties, what doesn't make sense for them. And it's sad to see Laughlin struggling. And I think the room occupancy was only 50%, which is crazy when you think about it. And just such a cool little area to go to. I wish more people would experience. The prices are a lot cheaper there for the rooms. So seeing it at 50% is kind of surprising.
A few other interesting numbers, I suppose. 52 publicly owned casinos generated 62.1% of all the gaming revenue. But overall, this is just, where do the profits come from if they, from the customer perspective, were charging so much and yet they couldn't squeeze it all out? And I just think the biggest shock for me really was to see that downtown has these better operating margins. They're doing so much better. And just a reminder, when we see all these numbers coming out from the Gaming Control Board and stuff, the margins in downtown are not as good. I mean, they take as much from slot machines. It's not generous like a lot of people think, as far as being a little bit better for the players.
Like I said, they're mostly privately owned. I think when you see like an MGM, a Caesars, things like that, the higher ups, it gets kind of bloated at the upper management levels, and you can trim that. I mean, we walked around Four Queens. They really seem to invest in the frontline employee. They've all been there a long time. I think you notice that a lot more at downtown casinos. They have that history. They're able to be efficient in their jobs, and there was less upper management that we dealt with when we were there that you talked to. Like if you went into and yes, the properties are smaller, I understand that, but when you walk into a Caesars type property, there's probably so many managers in each level of the casino, and they don't really work well together. Where we talked about how Binion's and Four Queens, if they're short one type of staff, they move them from one casino to the other, back and forth. I think we'll see more of that. There's just more synergy, to use the business buzzword of the 90s. I think that that's the opportunity that they could have if they play this right when they take it over.
So let us know down in the comments. So many numbers. I'll put a link down to a couple articles and to the abstract report. And I've hopefully thrown some stuff up on the screen to make this a little bit easier to digest. But I'd say these are pretty shocking numbers for certain areas and certain markets. So let us know what you think about that. Adult mini camp winning 1.1 million. Vanderpump Hotel, the grand opening and drone show, marrying 14 people in Vegas. Is that enough? Let us know down in the comments. We will do 3 shows this week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. We'll be here for all of it. Hope you come back to watch us. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.